You're ready to get back into a routine. You're ready to see your friends again. You're ready for life to have a structure again. And I know some of you in this room are not at all excited for the school year to kick off. But as the school year kicks off, I love that video that just played, because we can be the new to the people around us. You heard me talk about kingdom work earlier. We can be the people that show what true love from Jesus looks like. We can be the people that express his grace and his mercy. We can be the people that are joyful and show people what joy looks like. And so here at Worship Uncoiled, we're kicking off this entire school year with a series that we're just calling Living Your Best Life. Because if there's one thing that I believe, it's that when life is difficult, when life is easy, when life is full of sorrow and frustration, when life is full of happiness and joy, no matter where I fall in that spectrum, the best life that I can possibly live is a life that follows Jesus. The best life that I can possibly live is when, hear me, because this is really important, when I believe the things about myself that Jesus says about me. The best life we can live is when we believe the things about ourselves that Jesus says about us. So this month we're starting this off, and as you navigate your middle school and your high school career, man, I just hope that you will dig into this, and this will be something that kind of latches on into your heart. If you never remember anything I say, I hope that this is something that just kind of hangs out in your subconscious in the back of your brain, that Jesus has some things to say to you and about you that are 100% true. And when we can start living those in our lives, and we can know those, and we can live those out daily, and we can just let those sink into the core of who we are going to be living our best life. So here's the first message that Jesus desperately wants you to know. You are valuable. You are so, so valuable. Time and time again, when you look through the Gospels, we see Jesus coming alongside people and injecting value into their life when the world around them saw them as completely valueless. Now, when we start to look at the Gospels, we see Jesus doing some incredible things. We see him heal people. We see him teaching. We see him perform miracles. We see him talking to people, and people are like, what are you doing? What are you doing talking to those people? And those are amazing things. And when we understand the culture that Jesus was living in that time, they become even more amazing. Now, I'm going to go through just a couple of examples. For example, today, if we get a skin disease, we go to the doctor. We get some cream, we get it taken care of, not a big deal. In Jesus' time, if you got a skin disease, you were considered unclean. Now, they didn't have, they had some ointments and stuff, but they didn't have the medical professional world like we have today. And so what they did with the people with skin diseases is they were kicked out of life. They were told, you can't live with your family anymore. You can't be a part of this town anymore. Matter of fact, we're going to send you over to this other area where only people with skin diseases are allowed to live. And these people were sent there basically to allow this disease to take over and kill them. Anytime they were around other people, they had to express how valueless they were. They had to scream, stay away, stay away, stay away, I'm unclean, don't come near me, don't come near me. How degrading. But we see Jesus come on the scene. These people in the Bible are called lepers. And we see Jesus come on the scene, and when he comes across lepers, and they're screaming, "Stay away," and everybody else is like, "Oh my goodness, like that person is completely, stay away from them. They have no value to our society. They have no value to our lives." Jesus comes close. Jesus doesn't only come close, Jesus touches them. And then he heals them. Now, we always think the healing is the incredible thing. Like, yes, Jesus healed them. They no longer have the diseases, whatever they may have had, that was causing them this issue. But the incredible thing that I find in this is that Jesus could have been like, "Oh my goodness, hold on just a minute. Let's stay back. Okay, you're healed. All right, now I'm going to come close to you." But that's not what Jesus did. Jesus said, "You are valuable enough that I'm going to step in close to you. You are valuable enough that while everybody else keeps you away from a 10-foot pole, I am going to touch you and then heal you because I think you have value." When Jesus came across a tax collector that was considered a traitor, that everybody hated, the guys that everybody else were like, they are the scum of the earth, they are horrible people, we find that Jesus was having meals with these tax collectors. Now, in Jesus' culture, you have to understand, we think of having a meal. Okay, they were hanging out, they were having a meal, not a big deal. But in Jesus' culture, having a meal with someone, that was a big deal. That meant that you found them as valuable. That meant that you thought they had something to offer to society, that they had something to offer to life. And when Jesus comes across the tax collectors that everybody said, "Dude, you're scum, you have no value," Jesus says, I'm going to go have meals with you. I think you have something to offer in this life. I think you have value. And over and over and over again, we see Jesus show people how truly valuable they are, how truly valuable he sees them. And here's the big message. When Jesus looks at you, man, he sees you as so valuable. No matter what anybody else says around you, no matter what anybody else communicates to you, with words or in action, when Jesus looks at you, he sees you as so incredibly valuable. And he desperately wants you to know your own value. He desperately wants you to soak that up into the depth of your soul and say, "Man, I am so loved. I am so valuable." He thinks you are absolutely incredible. I brought something with me tonight from when I was in middle school and high school. I know, I've kept it all these years. When I was in middle school and high school, I was really into collecting basketball cards. Now, in the 1990s, collecting basketball cards was super, super popular. And so I have some of my favorite basketball cards. I've got some Michael Jordans in here. I've got some U.S. Olympic national team cards in here. I've got a whole lot of Pacer cards in here. I want to show you just a couple of my favorite here. I've got this entire book that is just Reggie Miller basketball cards because I was a huge Pacers and Reggie Miller fan back in the day. But my favorites, hold on, I'm going to get to it here, right here. All right, there are two of my favorites. The first one is right here. This is a Reggie Miller rookie card that my parents got me for either Christmas or birthday. I don't remember which one it was. But it still has the price tag on it. In the 90s, it cost them $30 for this one single card. I was so excited to have the Reggie Miller rookie card. I was just pumped. And then this second one of my favorite cards is on the same page. This is a signed Reggie Miller card. I remember going to a game and I worked my way through the crowd and got down close to where the team was walking out of the locker room and handed him a card, and he actually took it and signed it, which I was super pumped about, super excited. But I'll leave these up here for you guys if you want to look at them later. But here's the thing about these cards. If you were to go to a card shop, or if you were to go to eBay, or if you were to go to a card collector, they would look at these cards and they would say, these are worthless. They have absolutely no value. You see, in the 1990s, these cards boomed. Everybody was collecting basketball cards at that time. Little card shops were popping up all over the place, and you could walk into these glass cases and you could take a look at all the individual cards that they had out that were just like rookie cards and signed cards and cards with pieces of jerseys in them. And there was just this monstrous money-making machine. And then people realized that there were about 1 million of these cards created, and then it all just plummeted. It all just died. And if you walked into a store or eBay and you were like, all right, man, these cards, they are awesome. I remember them pulling them from a pack as a kid. They are absolutely incredible. I remember getting this for Christmas. How much? They'd be like, dude, it's totally worthless. It's from the 90s. 90s sports cards are completely valueless. But here's why I have these still today, is because to me, these aren't valueless. To me, these hold a lot of value. I can remember going with my dad to this little card shop that popped up in Plainfield and walking in and trying to decide which pack I was going to pick, hoping that I would get this incredible card. I remember going and looking at the glass case at all the cards and thinking, oh, it would be really cool to have that card. I remember going to the game and trying to get autographs on different cards and the excitement of having Reggie Miller sign a basketball card. I remember my friends giving me cards for my birthday and the excitement of just waiting and opening that pack ever so carefully so that I wouldn't bend or damage the cards, and excitedly looking through to see if any of my favorite players or really popular players were in the packs. To me, these cards have value. And here's the thing, is that when everybody else looks at these cards, they would probably throw them away. But I don't. I've held on to them. Because for me, there's value in these cards. And here's the thing. I get to decide how much value these cards hold. Nobody else. Because they're my cards. I get to decide how much value these cards hold. John chapter 4 is another perfect example of a time when Jesus expresses value. John chapter 4, verses 4 through 10. Jesus had to go through Samaria, and he came to a Samaritan city called Sychar, which was near the land of Jacob, that had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus was tired from his journey, so he sat down at the well, and it was about noon. All right, let's stop right there. We'll come back to that, but I want to stop there because there's a lot of things going on in this scripture that we have to understand to really grasp the fullness of what's going on here. Jesus went through Samaria. Doesn't seem like a big deal to us, but it was a big deal. Because Jesus was a Jew, Samaritans and Jews despised each other, hated each other. Matter of fact, Jews would often take a long way around just so they wouldn't have to go through the land of Samaria and possibly see a Samaritan person. But Jesus says, all right, guys, disciples, we're going straight through. We're going through Samaria. Already, Jesus is planning to intentionally express the value that he sees to people that are viewed as valueless. It says it was about noon, and a Samaritan woman came to the well to draw water. And Jesus said to her, "Give me some water to drink." His disciples had gone into the city to buy him some food. And the Samaritan woman asked, "Why do you, a Jewish man, ask for something to drink from me, a Samaritan woman?" Because Jews and Samaritans didn't associate with each other. And Jesus said, if you recognized God's gift and who is saying, "Give me some water to drink," you would be asking and he would give you living water. All right, there's a lot to understand. So this woman comes to the well about noon. Women came to the well to get water in the early morning. And they would get enough water for the entire day. This woman comes to the well about noon because she is an outcast in society. No one wants to be around her. She can't even be around the other people getting water for herself and her family. She has to go at the hottest part of the day to go get water. And Jesus comes to her and says, "Give me some water to drink." Now, there's so much going on. She is a Samaritan. She is an outcast of her own Samaritan people, and she is a woman. In Jesus' time, women were second-class citizens. Men did not associate with women. Yes, they had them as wives, but in a general public area, men did not associate with women. They would not talk to women. And so Jesus intentionally goes through Samaria and then talks to a Samaritan who is a woman who is an outcast of society. Holy cow. And Jesus asks her for a drink. Jesus says in this moment, everybody says you have nothing to offer in life. Everybody says you are worthless and valueless and you need to just stay away and take care of yourself. But you know what? I think you have something to offer. Can I have a drink? And she's shocked. Why would this man think I have anything to offer? Like, I'm a woman, I'm a Samaritan, I'm an outcast. I don't understand. And she asks him, and Jesus says, you would be asking, and if you knew who I was, you would be asking for living water. And Jesus in this moment is saying, listen, you have something to offer me because I believe you have something to offer to this world. And that is living water, that you are loved and you are cherished. And when everybody else says you hold no value, I think you have some incredible things to offer to this world. And I love what happens next. In John, they have like an entire conversation that they kind of go back and forth. And in John chapter 4, verse 27, Jesus' disciples arrived and they were shocked. Like, these are the guys that have been following Jesus. They've seen what he's done, and they're like, whoa. Hold on, what are you doing talking to this woman that is a Samaritan that is at the well at noon? This is nuts. But they know better than to ask. They've seen Jesus give people value that lacked value. They may be completely blown away, but I think in this moment, they all stood back and were waiting. All right, what's he going to do? How is this woman going to walk away changed? Because she now recognizes that the kingdom of God is completely different from the kingdom of man. And in the kingdom of God, she is so valuable. You are so valuable. You hold value. I showed you guys these cards, and they're pretty valueless to everybody else. But nobody else gets to decide their value because they're mine. Now, there may be duplicates out there that people have thrown away and said is valuable, but these cards, these are mine. I get to decide their value. I get to decide whether they're worth keeping or throwing away or keeping in little plastic sleeves or whatever it may be. You guys, you are Jesus's. He came to this earth. He went to the cross, and you are his. Hear me. Nobody gets to decide your value except Jesus. Nobody. Not friends, not bosses, not coworkers, not family. Nobody gets to decide your value except Jesus. I don't know where you are in your life right now. I don't know how you're feeling about your own worth or your own value. I imagine there are some of you in this room that live this, that you feel pretty valuable. I think that's awesome. And I imagine there are some of you in this room that this is a struggle for you. You've kind of been beat down. You've kind of been pushed aside. And you need to be reminded that, man, no matter what anybody else says about you, the truth is that you are valuable. And so every week, I'm going to give a practical challenge that is just another way to take a step in your faith. And this week, the practical challenge is this. I want you to go home, and I want you to find something that you find valuable, that everybody else would look at and be like, okay, that's kind of worthless, but if you think it's valuable, that's fine. I want you to go home and find something that you find valuable, and I want you to put it somewhere where you'll see it. And every time you see that thing, I want it to be a reminder that Jesus gets to decide your value. And Jesus says you are so incredibly valuable. You are so incredibly loved. You guys, when we can allow that to soak deep into our souls, and we can live that truth every day, we will be living our best life. Let me pray for you guys. God, thank you so much for tonight.